Hey, John Gilroy here. Last week, I was at an event with Congressman Gerry Connely, and he, of course, is talking about FedRAMP, and he said the platform is a solution. Well, we'll find out about clouds and platforms here. We're talking to people from Cloudera. Hit the music, Manny.
Welcome to the Federal Tech Podcast, where industry leaders share insights on innovation with a focus on reducing cost and improving security for federal technology. If you like the Federal Tech Podcast, please support us by giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts.
Welcome to the Federal Tech Podcast, a podcast that connects you to federal technology leaders. My name is John Gilroy, and I will be your moderator. Our guest today is Rob Carey, President, Cloudera Governance Solutions. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell our audience we're recording this from Monk's Barbecue in lovely downtown Purcellville, Virginia. Kind of a high-class place, huh, Rob?
Very nice, very nice. Thanks for having me here, John.
And our guest, of course, is Rob Carey, President of Cloudera Governance Solutions. We're going to talk about cloud and managing cloud and some federal solutions. And whenever you go to events, you get congressmen and big-name leaders, and they make these bold statements, and then it comes down to someone like Rob to try to implement them. and let's talk about implementing cloud and implementing modernization of federal government. You want to start off with quality of data or maybe data strategy? Where do you want to start, Rob?
So I think the first bit of the problem has to be obviously coming up with the data strategy, thinking about what problem you're trying to solve. That's number one. Data is the center of information used by leadership to make decisions, right? Whether you're trying to save money, you're trying to deliver citizen services, things like that. So at the end of the day, if you don't have the problem defined, it's pretty hard to then decide how does data support it. Do you use cloud computing? Do you use on-prem data centers? Where do you go? You actually have to think about this from as we were talking before, about what's the end in mind here? What are we trying to get done? And then you can work your way back into the IT infrastructure and over to the data, figure out what you're going to do with it. And if you want to use AI or not, we'll talk about that later. But you really do have to understand data doesn't exist for data's sake. Data exists to enable decisions.
Makes sense. Now, you have a background in the military, so you can understand some of the implications of this question I'm going to ask is that there's different levels of data. Some are very, very important. Some are life and death important. Some are really, not that important. I think we have to learn how to classify some of this data. At the event I went to, someone made the remark that talk about everyday data. Gartner came up with this phrase. It's like, this isn't life and death stuff. Maybe this is user interface problems we're trying to get at, and maybe we should handle that data with a different approach than we do with some military life and death data, huh?
Well, let's go back to it's an interesting term, everyday data, because the defined data that is life and death and the defined data that it's, let's say, parking meter time frames, things like that. Yeah. Yes, it is produced all day, every day, around the globe. The question is you, again, back to what problem are you trying to solve is going to drive you towards specific sets of data and data types, and then the ability to maybe get it where you want it. Okay, once I find it, I'll move it, and then I can put it into a place like a data lakehouse to then start running analytics on it, to then render, hopefully, decision quality information that leadership can use to move whatever needle they want to move. So everyday data is so wide a category, you sort of have to narrow it down a little bit, but also you need to know what you're trying to do. And if you don't know that, I don't know what it would drive you to where to go in the everyday data.
I was listening to a podcast with a guy named Kyle Tuberson from ICF, and he was talking about data and data management and the cloud and security. And he said, what with all those satellites up and all these sensors everywhere, a lot of the data that's coming in really needs to be massaged. He call it dirty data, or, what exactly is dirty data? I don't know. But unstructured data, dirty data, he says a lot of people maybe PhDs spend 80% of their time on prepping the data when maybe they should be spending on analyzing it, huh?
That's correct. There is the first problem in the data lifecycle is find it. The second problem is engineer it, decide what you have to do to it to get it into an organization and an alignment and a configuration that it can be ingested into a database or a data lakehouse, what have you, and then run analytics on it that are in a repeatable manner. If you try to do that without normalizing the data, if you will, the attributes of the data, normalizing the attributes, it's just hard, right? This is not for the faint of heart to just dive into the data, the deep end of the data lake, if you will, and start to try to swim. You must understand that algorithms, for example, that support machine learning or AI, require normalized data to then give you an answer out the other side that you can consume, both in time and in velocity. And what I mean by that is, are you looking for real-time data, or are you looking for data that after the computers grind on it for, minutes or hours, whatever you want to call it?
Okay, so we have people in the federal government listening to this podcast, and they're getting deluged with data, and they're trying to come up with a solution. And so everyone says, well, snap your finger. The answer is artificial intelligence, Rob. Everyone knows this. This is the answer to everything in the world. And so can Cloudera combine artificial intelligence to make the lives of my listeners easier? In other words, these big brain people shouldn't spend their time cleaning data. They should be analyzing it. So where do you fit in this equation?
Well, so remember, we perform data management across the entire data lifecycle, right? So obviously first find it, move it, clean it, organize it, serve it up in a data lakehouse, and then you can run analytics on it. So there's a whole lot of work that gets done before you get to running analytics, which is machine learning is a form of, or AI is a form of machine learning. So before you get to the end, this is sort of like people want to do the happy dance immediately when in fact they haven't necessarily done their homework. So it is a very complex journey to find the data associated with the problem that you want, access it, move it, engineer it, cleanse it, and then get it into a place where you can serve it up for an algorithm to use in a vector database, and then run language learning models on it that then produce a result. Now, you're going to do that many times over again before you figure out, I need to do something to that data because I'm not getting repeatable answers out the other side, whatever that answer may be. So AI it can do wonderful things for citizens, and it can be both predictive, and it can be, machine learning's more looking back and telling you what happened, and the generative AI is telling you what could happen. But at the same time, it takes a lot of work to get to the place where you start that journey. And the very complex vector databases and models have to be built, and then they have to be revised and perfected so that you get repeatable answers out. So I hate to say that AI is the pot of gold at the end of a long road, but it is.
Your company is Cloudera, Cloudera Governance Solutions. You can go there for more information. I went there this morning, and I wrote down 2 words: relentless innovation.
Yes.
And so hold on to your hats here, ladies and gentlemen. So from the perspective of a information technology leader in the federal government, show me what you got, man. I mean, where's your relentless?
So relentless innovation means, we're striving to, secure data as you move it around, right? Because, what do hackers go after when they attack anything in the information technology sector? They're after the data,
yep,
right? Or trying to manipulate the data or shift it or have people lose confidence in it. So we provide pathways to secure data as it's being utilized. We provide full data lifecycle, every stage of the data lifecycle. We provide the ability to manage that. We manage volumes of data that are unparalleled in the industry. We manage 26 petabytes of data. Look that up. That's a lot. So we manage volume. And so what we are doing to innovate is to embed in the data lifecycle real live AI algorithms at the end of the data lifecycle, making that more of a commodity experience than it is today. It is not a commodity-like experience. It is a complicated experience today.
I heard that word lifecycle, and I heard a few words at the event I was at, and they talked about lineage tracking, which is like, where's this stuff come from?
Right.
And part of a lifecycle is knowing where it's come from, how it's been changed, and then managing the security of it, and then having a way to do it comfortably and within a timely framework, huh?
knowing if it's been changed, having the confidence that the data has not been touched or modified as it is now ingested in your vector databases and your models. So one of the things that we do, we have a tool called SDX that enables that to be applied, and now you have confidence that what you've started the journey with, wherever the data came from, and you end the journey in an AI-based algorithm is the same data, right? That's important because you're expecting results based upon data. If the data changes, your results change, and you understand that relationship is literally one-to-one. So right now, I mean, I think at the end of the day, data security, privacy, again, I'm going to go back to what problem are you trying to solve?
Yeah.
And if that will gear you towards what language learning model might be more appropriate for that data and that outcome than another one. And language learning models are popping out just like four-leaf clover or like clover in your yard. In essence, there's just many, many, many of them being generated for specific applications that serve certain utilization rates in the government.
I was at your website and I saw Cloudera SDX. Then I looked it up. It says for Security Governance Lineage. Where's that X come in? must be something in there, but it's pretty good. And your website also talks about your public cloud, CDP public cloud.
Right.
So this is the repository for a lot of this data, then, huh? Or it can be.
When organizations today, government organizations, run hybrid infrastructures, right? So they have on-prem and they have public cloud and they have private cloud. So it is a hybrid infrastructure. Every CIO that I know is running the totality of what's inside their firewall is a hybrid infrastructure. So public cloud is a key feature of where data may be. Remember, programs are funded, and so the have programs that got funded put their data in the cloud early in this journey. Or remember when cloud came out about 10, 12 years ago?
Very well.
And next thing you know, people were throwing money at it just to get there. Now, the have-not programs sat in their mainframes and sat in their older hardware boxes on-prem and are performing their functions just fine. Based upon the question that you're trying to solve, the data could be in any one of those locations, right? So now you want to be able to manage public cloud as well as on-prem at the same time, right? That's another thing that we do. We can provide hybrid data access, hybrid data management, no matter where it is. So you take away from the CIO worrying about where is it? You don't care. You don't care where it is. You don't care about the volume. You don't care about the shape. You don't care about any attribute of it, because once you know where it is, you can begin the data lifecycle journey. You can engineer around it. You can modify it. You can align it, normalize it, get it into the data lakehouse.
I'm taking notes for our listeners here. First note is start with the end in mind. The quality of the data should align with the use case. What's your use case here? Is it parking meters or is it something more serious? And we all know some serious stuff. Focus on the outcome. My second note is everyday data versus transformational data. Maybe this is the type of data we could use to solve these use cases. So I teach graduate students, and they're way smart, and they take certain courses, and they get out and they enter the real world. And you know what? A lot of the courses they have don't prepare them for what they're going to face to face. I mean, I don't know how you can keep up with all the transitions here in artificial intelligence. So the DoD has started to put together an AI community of interest, and this is my big thing, Rob, is that the AI killer is going to be community, and community is going to beat AI every day of the week, So tell me about this AI community. Do you think it's a good way for my listeners to get an idea of how to practically apply this?
I think it is. Just like open source software, there are communities of developers out there that share their ideas. And so it enables quicker adoption and, hey, what worked? What didn't work? Where did it work? This is important because the problem you're trying to solve, let's just say it's in financial management or it happens to be in manufacturing, quality assurance, what have you, you want to understand somebody that's working in that space. What kinds of data is coming into manufacturing and quality assurance is not the kind of data that's coming into finance, right? So then the language learning models and the implementation of AI to support decision making in those two spaces is very different. The communities of interest enable you to go find somebody who's working in the same problem space. How cool is that? And let's share about it. So the Department of Defense, my old home, it does everything industry does and more. And so to have a community that people can share ideas to accelerate the safe and reliable implementation of AI, notice I say safe and reliable implementation, is really a good thing.
Years ago, maybe before you were born, there was this comedy routine about who's on first, what's on second, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to start with who's on first, Where's the data? I mean, let's identify it first. And if you look at 10 data companies, they'll say, yeah, we have the tools that'll allow us to identify and assess the existing data assets. And so does Cloudera. You must be able to have an ability to identify existing data sets.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, but again, when we say data, you have to go back in front of that and say, where's the data? What problem are you trying to solve?
Yep.
Once you understand that, now the data becomes pretty apparent what you want to gather up. And then you may find that it may be in various locations. So find it, move it, normalize it, serve it up. Right, that journey, the data life cycle is a really important thing to understand. We just don't go out and put a vacuum cleaner in the network and suck all the data out and put it in a pile and then try to sort it out. We have to decide, do we want human resources data? Do we want legal data? Do we want contract data? What's the problem we're trying to solve?
Yeah.
Once we get that, that's what I'm saying. The power of AI is unheard of at this time. Also, some of the dangers of it, right? Because we know in cybersecurity, bad guys can use these technologies too to make them look just like good guys. And so at the end of the day, there are pros and cons of this and how to understand, is AI being done to you or being used to you when you get emails? Is that real or is it Memorex, right? And the idea is you need to be able to discern that in order to respond appropriately. So it's a big deal. The implementation of AI is the next big thing, right? In my lifetime of 25 years in IT, the word cyber came out in 2000s. We used to be information assurance. That was a game-changing word. Then the word cloud came out, right? That was another game-changing word. The entire infrastructure of IT changed. Then data popped out in the mid 2015, 2016, as an important thing, but not a game changer so much. And then now AI has popped out. That is the game changer, and it links AI to the network.
Okay, Rob, here's a for instance for you. So let's say we sit down with some govies and we identify and assess existing data assets. Great. We can start with the problem there. Great. What if those assets are in legacy systems? Again, what do you have?
Well, again, you don't really care as long as you can extract the data, move it into a place, manipulate it, and normalize it, and then serve it up. So we don't care. There's a way to get data where it is, where it's generated, right? Because a lot of times data is just being generated. Now you want to get that data, move it into a place, and start the data lifecycle journey. So legacy data doesn't matter. Cloud data, like literally sitting in one of the big commercial clouds, that doesn't matter either.
When it comes to sitting down and coming up with a solution, then you have to sketch out what kind of infrastructure needs you have. Then you have to, okay, this is what we need. You talk about petabytes. I mean, that's, for someone my age, that's a shocking word. Petabyte, whoa, that's a big word. And so you assess the problem, just select the data that you need to solve the problem, you got the use case. Now you have to structure your maybe called the back end. You need to structure your infrastructure and cloud requirements. So where do they go from there? How do you assess those requirements?
So based upon the data sets that you believe are appropriate to help render a solution to the question that you asked, right? You may realize, like, hey, there's now hardware, software, computing requirements that are necessary to bring that about, right? The data flows could be large, they may be small, but there is hardware, and it does have a capacity, right? So whether it's memory, storage, whatever you want to call it, and its processing power, the number of nodes, the number of XYZs per second, the calculations that you want to run are going to give you, you may be wanting to use GPUs, right? That are very, very, very powerful processing nodes. At the end of the day, based upon what you want to do and the data flows, that will give you a size and scope of the infrastructure required to make that successful. And then once you find out, hey, I'm choking it somewhere, okay, maybe I need bigger this, bigger that. Or you may be just fine. Everything may be running smoothly, and you're producing results like you thought.
I haven't used a Tom Cruise quote in a while, Rob, so I'm going to use it. Show me the money. So capacity. Now, everyone's budget has a capacity, too. It's like, okay, there are people want to, modernize, and there's also costs associated with that, with the available budget. So this is the magic balancing act, And Rob, you've done this for decades, and you balance this. When you worked for the federal government, you had a balancing act there. Mm-hmm. So the Wallenda brothers or something, how do you do this balancing act between the modernization you need and your budget, and do you assess priorities, or how do you go about doing that?
Well, so you have to prioritize, right? That's a magic word, right? No CIO I've ever met has enough money to do everything they want when they want to do it, right? Typically, that number hovers around 60 or 70%. So you have to take your 70% of your budget of asks and the real budget and then prioritize what you're going to try to get done. Jumping into the AI lake, if you will, no pun intended, data lake house, but jumping into the AI lake does require investment. It requires time. It requires people that have the skills to do this work. The workforce, this is new, John, and so the workforce needs to be educated to play in this space and educated to do battle with guys like that I have working for me, my engineers, who are rocket scientists in this space, right? So not do battle, that's not the word, but collaborate and coordinate to get an outcome, right? We're here to see government agencies be successful, but you have to be able to communicate on a level playing surface what you're doing, why you're doing it, and why things cost what they cost or don't, right?
Yeah, this whole concept of reskilling, I know many successful IT professionals that have great skills in a certain area. Now, you throw ChatGPT at them, you throw this at them, so it's something. So it's very difficult to maintain. And maybe this whole AI community can assist the community here with that. And I hope you guys contribute to it. But I think it's a really important part of just trying to keep up with what's going on. And this is true for a bank in Cleveland, Ohio. It's true for a law firm in Austin. It's true for a railroad in Seattle. It's true for everyone in here. It's just balancing is so hard. And I think people can benefit from your background. And I even told people about your background, but I think everyone knows you well enough to have a very well-respected background with the Department of Defense. Looking into the crystal ball here. So give me exactly, maybe it's not in your capacity here, where do you see the next 5 years heading for data management in the federal government?
So I see AI blossoming. I see AI moving past chatbots, right? Rather simple implementations, all things being considered, into more structural and more complex utilizations, right? I see it becoming commoditized. And what I mean by that is the steps on the data lifecycle get to be automated, if that makes sense to you. So today, it's not really automated. It takes a lot of time and energy to set up the models, go find the data, move it in. It's not a couple of hours, right? There are some tasks that can be done quicker than that, but I see, like anything else, I see it commoditized. I see the workforce maturing in this space so that they can do this work, right? Today, and just like when cyber came out and became the thing, did we have enough cybersecurity engineers? Absolutely not. We couldn't make them fast enough out of colleges and even experiential learning people. When cloud came out, did we have a bunch of cloud engineers that knew how to manage public cloud infrastructure? No. Now data's out. There are degrees popping out in the last 5 years that didn't exist 5 years before that. So now data scientists and data engineers are being made, and they know what they are getting themselves into. And now the goal is to take this AI tool and make it mainstream, right? Make it so where it is far better understood by more people than it is today. Maybe
there'll be degrees in prompt engineering. Who knows what's going to happen next year? We don't know. This has been an interesting conversation. You have been listening to the Federal Tech Podcast with John Gilroy. I'd like to thank my guest, Rob Carey, President, Cloudera Government Solutions. Thanks, Rob.
You bet. Thanks for having me, John.
Thanks for listening to the Federal Tech Podcast. If you like the Federal Tech Podcast, please support us by giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts.